All right, how many of you were here with me before? Hi. For those of you who weren't here before, I'm Bill Mock. For the rest of you, I'm still Bill Mock. It's an old joke. I'm sorry. I apologize. We're going to try something a little bit different. Before, you've seen me come in here and do a dog and pony show, little tap dance, little music, little song, little fun, but we're not going to do that today. Well, we'll do a little bit of that today. What I would rather do is something where you're a little bit more involved. And this is something I've done all my years, and every time I do it, I get a case of nerves that Xanax wouldn't cure. Because I have trust issues, what can I say? And so if it works, it was my fault. If it doesn't work, it was your fault. But we're going to do, what I need to do right now is to tell you that we're going to talk about families. And we're going to talk about the rules of working with families. And we're going to talk about some of the special issues in working with families that are chemically dependent. Right? I've been doing this for what? A while. I can't do the math. Maybe I've been doing it too long. 50 years. I've been doing it for about 50 years, so I've picked up a few tricks. So I'll share those with you today. And what we're going to do is I need 4 volunteers to do a little role play with me. And so while you're trying to screw up your courage to come up front here with me, let me tell you the rules. Sometimes during role plays and times like this, people go for the Emmy. You don't have to overact this, and you have to be normal the way a person would actually be in those circumstances. No high drama, no melodrama. This is not a soap opera. I need somebody to do a role play, please. And they're not coming up. See? Already? Thank you. Come on up here. Thank you. I got one. Come on. Come on. I need 4. 3. I need 4. Come on. You big weenies, somebody get up here.
In the blue shirt, he wants to come up here. Come on. Come on. Yeah.
That's good. All right, now here's the deal. This is now our family. These are 4 people who belong to a family. Right away, you learn one of the rules. And we'll articulate it later, but keep watching. I would like for each of you just to pick a role. What do you want to be? What member of the family do you want to be?
I want to be his wife. I'll take her.
Congratulations. You dog, you still have it, don't you? Okay. Well, then that would assume that you're going to be a wife and that you've just assigned him a role. What a good wife you are. So you're your dad, Mom. Who do you want to be? Okay. The slow uncle. Is that? What do you want?
I'm rolling it around.
Okay, well, think a minute. Think a minute.
What do you make of somebody?
Pet dog.
I can do that.
No, I don't know. How about son?
You're going to be the son?
He can be the
Oh, he's going to be the son.
He can be the son.
Okay, you're the son. Okay. And who are you?
I can be your sister.
Okay.
Okay, so your aunt,
I'm the cool aunt.
the cool aunt. Yeah, okay. All right, now this is all I want you to do. You are a normal family. I'm not sure I know what that is either, but you are a family. You have normal relationships. You go about your day every day. What I would like for you to do is a little exercise. Can I do something about that? Oh, okay. I would like for you to do a day in the life of this family. And we're going to use a technique that Peggy Papp pioneered years ago called family choreography. So what I want you to do as a family is I want you to start right after breakfast and spend your day in the next, 5 or 8 minutes. And if you go someplace during the course of the day, I'll stop every once in a while, and you can tell me where you are and what you're doing, and kind of a day in the life, all right? And so you're the son, dad, mom, cool aunt. Do you live in the house?
Yes.
Isn't that nice?
I'm unemployed.
It's, okay, already we're getting weird. It's just, actually, that's pretty normal now that I think about it. Okay, so you, any questions about how to do this, the choreography thing? Just walk around, do a little role play. So if you're going to go, where would you go on a day like today?
High school. I teach
Where's high school?
Williams.
No, where is high school? Here in the room, where is it? Is that high school over in the corner?
Okay, it's over there.
Okay. Okay, and you're the teacher. You're a teacher in the high school. Okay. So that's the kind of thing I want to have happen. So that I'll tell you what time it is periodically, and you can move where you would move during that time of the day. And where would you be going on a day like this? Fishing.
That's where we were going, fishing. I was going fishing too.
Where are you?
I'm serious. Uh-huh.
How about that?
They're so in tune.
That's why we're married. We think alike.
Or else. Yeah, okay. All right. And how about you, Aunt? What are you?
I'm on the computer all day.
On the computer all day. Okay. All right. So I'm going to give you a start, and then whenever I want you to stop, and we'll do a little processing.
Okay.
We can do that then. Okay. So breakfast is done. Thank you. It was delicious. Start. Go where you're going to go.
Okay, the pier's over here, so why don't we go?
All right. All right. You got the cooler here.
Yeah, but cool, just has Cokes in these days, so I get the hot dogs since I got
Did you
back.
remember the squid?
Oh, this squid, oh, well, you don't get squid, we use these whitefish.
Okay. All right.
They're cheaper to start.
Are you actually married?
All right. You'll have to show me how to make the computer though.
10 o'clock.
Why don't you go down and get a squid bait shop down there, and I'll stay here.
Get started? Okay. All right. Let me go get some squid.
She's heading for the bait shop.
Anybody a squid?
Stop. You got to stop. Freeze. You got to tell me where you are. Say it out loud.
Bait shop.
You're at the bait shop.
That's right. I'm getting squid.
You take care of business, don't you?
Yes,
All
sir.
right. And you're. Don't you never go away. Okay. I'm sorry, I put words in your mouth. I shouldn't have done that. Son,
Yes, sir.
what's going on?
What's going on?
Oh, that's a perfect teacher, isn't it? Ask him a question, what does he do? Go research that. Bring that in the morning in a
We're
report.
having class. This is my first class of the day.
Cool.
It's English class, right? This is my class, right here.
English teacher.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And, what are you, what are you doing?
Computer. On the computer.
Let's see, what are you doing on the computer?
Fishing people. Scamming people.
Doing what?
Scamming people.
So you do have a job.
That's just, I don't make any money at it. It's just for fun.
I'm not giving you my business card. Okay, go. Go.
Catch anything yet?
You got the, not that thing yet, but I had a couple different. Really? So you got the squid.
Yeah.
It's noon.
Okay. All right. I'm all.
It's noon.
Okay. All righty. Okay. I see.
Secret to a happy marriage. Fishing here. What are you doing? Stop. It's noontime. What you're eating? What are you guys doing? Still fishing? Trying to catch lunch? Time to eat. Okay.
Okay, well, we can bring us.
Teach. What are you doing?
What are we doing? we're having class.
Pretty much
A classic.
a day in the life. Okay. Go. Only this time we're going to accelerate. Now it's 2:30 in the afternoon.
Better put some sunscreen on. Boy, it's getting hot out here. We've been out here for 5 hours.
How many fish we have so far?
I have 15. How you doing on your side?
I've got 6.
How big are they?
We're doing fantastic, all right.
Bottom of the bait shop.
My lucky day. Yes.
All right, it's 5 o'clock. End of the day. 5 o'clock.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Hey, teach. Hey, teacher. Teacher, it's 5 o'clock. It's 5 o'clock, end of school day. Stop. What are you doing? Papers to correct. What's going on with you?
Well, we gotta clean our fish and lay down and take a little nap.
Little nap.
Long, hard day.
That's tough. That stuff. Yeah. And how about you? Playing Candy Crush. See, now I don't know from fishing, but Candy Crush I know. Okay. Go forward an hour. What's next?
Are you making dinner tonight?
Sounds like a family to me.
Yes, please. I'm exhausted.
We have fish.
I don't make stuff on scratch.
I've known you for 30 years,
So
so
you're not surprised.
I'm not surprised.
Okay.
That's wonderful.
All right,
Thank you so
all
much.
Wait, stop. 8 o'clock, what's going on? 8 o'clock, correcting papers. Doing what? Fishing again?
Candy Crush.
You're getting good at that, I know. And folks, 8 o'clock?
I watched the ball game on TV.
All right.
And I'm playing on my phone.
Zach, what sport is you on?
Baseball.
Okay, I'm watching it.
Okay, so much for the papers. Forget it, kids.
I was done.
All right. Break. That's the end of a day in the life. Now you all go and sit down someplace, but stay close because we're going to do it again. All right? So sit down.
Be the drug
Boy, you tell everybody what to do, don't you?
That's right.
You're going fishing. You're going to be my husband. You're going to be the drug addict. Okay. Rule number 1. It was a totally plausible family, wasn't it? That's like families you've seen in your own neighborhood. There's no magic here. I didn't have to give them a script. People just took a role, and the way it works is that families work the way families work. And those roles all fit the way they should fit. And that's the way it works. Anywhere you do this exercise, by the way, and we'll clean the exercise up in a minute, but anywhere you do this exercise, anywhere in the world, whatever the culture, it all works out the same. It always works out the same. Rule number 1, families work like families work. That's the way it works. And that is so cool because that relieves you of so much having to know everything, right? Because families do what families do. And this family did what families do. They formed relationships. They had a day in the life. They related to each other. They came together. They split apart. They sent stuff out into the community. They brought stuff back in from the community, even if it was fish, but went out and teach and and whatever it was you were doing here, and interact somehow with the world. They look like a family looks. And I got to tell you something, this family was pretty good. Now, but let's move on and talk a minute about that exercise called family choreography. I want you to do this with families. But there's one of the rules that I let you guys get away with, and that is during family choreography, there's no talking. With the family, because you're a normal family, I let you get away with it. But with a toxic family, you wouldn't want to do that, would you? Because they've already been talking. And the talking they've been doing hasn't been real good. See, I love it when families come to me and say, and I say, so what's the problem? They'll say, well, we don't communicate. That's not right. They communicate plenty. And usually in not so nice ways, right? Yeah, there's plenty of communication going on. What they mean is, we don't communicate in a loving and respectful and productive way. So let's get past the words, and let's do the kind of just a physical moving with this family. And what you'll find happens is that they see things in themselves that they couldn't see past the words. So family choreography works real well. And there's some variations on this. See, already I'm giving you a tip about this. Some variations on this. You can be the starter-stopper. Or with some families, you can take the individual who presented, who was the presenting problem person for the family, who came in and took lead, and have them start and stop the family. And have them ask what's going on. Doesn't matter who does that either. It's amazing. But that's when people get to talk. And because you haven't let them talk before, they want to talk plenty. Works great. You'll be amazed at how it works. Okay. Let me just go through a couple of these slides, and then we'll go back to the family. By the way, they did a nice job, don't you think? Come on, come on. You're not going to get an Emmy, but at least you would have bought a ticket, right? All right. So let's talk about some rules. These are, I love this word. I learned this word when I was in grade school. Sister Gemma taught it to me. She was the best teacher I ever had in my life. She made me love math. But an axiom is a rule that is self-evident on its face. So this is axioms. Number one, a family is, one, like all other families. I've done this exercise in China, Vietnam, Turkey, Scotland, there's a foreign place, Portugal, South America, I've done it everywhere. I've done it in Virginia. I can add that to the list. But everywhere you go, a family's like a family. Okay? And there's all kinds of customs around that, but at its base, it's all the same. People loving families, people loving each other, people supporting each other, people coming together to take care of each other, right? At least that's the theory. But a family is like some other families. This is kind of an unusual family, not so weird though in this day and age. Everybody's into electronics and people do fishing. We're going to talk during the break, okay? I want to know about this fishing thing. Mm-hmm. And
important to know about it.
And I want to know why she isn't making money at it. If you're going to do something illegal, it's illegal, isn't it?
I would think, but
I'm going to translate to I don't care. Like some other families. Look, the families who come to you and present to you for some kind of work, what do we call them? We call them distressed families, chemically dependent families. We call them client families. We call them. So there's a subset of families who present with a cluster of very similar kind of circumstances, issues, dynamics, right? So they are, in that way, like a bunch of other families. We do multiple family therapy groups all the time, and the reason we do that is because they can relate to each other, because they all belong to the same kind of subset. And while they are universally like other families, they're also especially like these other families they're meeting with. Right? So the third rule here is they are like no other family. The joy in working with families is these three rules. There's so much to know about these families because they're families. There's so much to know about the families because of the special presenting problem they bring. And so that sets them up in some kind of subset and gives you information about that, right? That's embarrassing. I'm sorry. Actually, I intended to do that to remind you to turn your cell phones off. It's my wife. Where'd you say you were? I'm sorry about that. Okay. And then, of course, one of the joys of working with families is getting them to teach me who they are. Now, I'm going to say something that usually gets me in trouble, but let's go to the next axiom. Knowing that about families, knowing that, it tells you how your focus ought to go. By the way, these slides, all these slides will be on the video. So if you don't want to take copious notes, you don't have to, because the video that they publish will have all these slides on it. Okay. The focus then should be, you come because you're a family therapist, right? And so you come because you have knowledge about how these things work. You understand systems. You understand interrelatedness. You understand the way things work in a general sense. And that's why they walked in, isn't it? That's why they came to you. Now, that's what they say they came to you for, but they got another agenda, and we'll talk about that in a second. But you bring knowledge of families and the way they work. So that's number one. All families are the same. And one of the things that's so cool is that I can look like the most culturally sensitive dude in the world wherever I go, because I don't focus on anything but the way families work. And so I can take a whole bunch of guys in Gaziantep, Turkey, guys, and say, make a family and let's do this. And it works. And they think, wow, man, you must be like Turkish or something. Yeah, no. And by the way, they don't talk like that in Turkey. I'm sorry. That's California I was thinking about. And number two, the therapist and the system form hypotheses. They are like some other families, right? And the way that they are like some other families is because of the nature and the style of the presenting problem. Right? Why are we here? Well, there's a chronic illness in our family. Why are you here? Well, we have pending divorce. Why are you here? Because we're toxic and angry and argue all the time. Why are you here? Because we are sick to death because we have chemical dependency in our family. Right? So here's what you do, right, with number two, is that the two of you come to forming a hypothesis, and or hypotheses, and that is they're theories about maybe the way things are working here. Not why. Don't ever ask why. Not unless you want to take a vacation. Just take off your shoes, put your feet up. If you ask one of these systems why, you will get a long and arduous answer through hill and dale, one thing and another, and then there was Fred, and then it was Tuesday, and then it was, and on. No. How do things work? Who, what, when, where, and how? Let's form a hypothesis. Right, okay. And then we got something we can do because we can test the hypothesis. Right? So what's going on, all right? And I'll show you a really cool way to structure that. And I know that everybody here is interested in easier ways to record. And I'll show you a really straightforward, simple, uncluttered way of recording this kind of stuff. And then there's number three. And this is a special joy. Families come to you thinking that they are terminally unique. Well, they're not terminally unique, but there is a piece of them that's very special and very different from all other families. They are unique in their way, and they are special. And one of the things that I strive for is finding out who and what they are. What kind of family are they? Now, all right, here's a bone. They're gonna record this, so this is quite a chance I'm taking here. But here you go. Did somebody just make a noise? Anyway, the cultural sensitivity. I've taken lots of cultural sensitivity classes, usually because somebody's paying for me to do that, but cultural sensitivity classes. And usually the way cultural sensitivity classes go, which irritates me just the tiniest little bit, is that somebody stands at the front of the room and tells me how ignorant I am about some culture. And that that's a bad enough, I'll take that. One of the keys to being a good professional is being a professional willingness to ignorance. Okay, I'll be ignorant, but tell me something that lifts my ignorance. But usually I get told that because of special circumstance, or because I'm male, or because I'm handsome, or because, well, I threw that one in, might as well, that I'll never be able to understand. It's kind of hopeless. But the truth of the matter is that, boy, I'm going to get in trouble. Anybody here do cultural sensitivity training? I think that is a waste of money. Thank you. See, the English teacher agrees. Must be so. And let me tell you why I say that. I have had Hispanic families and gay families and you name it, every variation and color of family. And if I make assumptions on the basis of their last name or their sexual orientation or whatever, if I make assumptions on that because I'm culturally sensitive, then I'm going to be wrong. As often as not, I'm going to be wrong. When I have a Latino couple, as an example, sitting in front of me, yeah, let me go ahead and treat them like they're Mexicans. They're from that culture. And they'll tell me about Puerto Rico real quick, or Nicaragua, or wherever else they come from. Just because they have a Latino last name and speak Spanish doesn't mean that I can jump to all kinds of assumptions. I'm always culturally sensitive and safer to let them educate me about what their culture is. Every single family within a larger culture has some subset of expression of that culture, or even another culture that they brought from somewhere else. Right? So I don't make those assumptions. And let me tell you what that does for you. They will trust you. They will know that you're brilliant because you let them educate you. Right? You want to build trust? Do that. You want to make assumptions about who they are and what they are because of where they came from or their last name or how they dress, I promise you it'll be a much harder trip to trust land. Right? So don't do that. Tell me about you. What do you do? How do you do that? Where are you from? What are your values? Kind of interesting. It's a good way to do it, huh? Yeah. And one of the things I must tell you is that anybody here know David Powell? Know the name? I know you do, but David Powell he and I used to pal around before he died, and he would take me places to do this family stuff and to do group stuff. And he always had this way of saying, oh, and by the way, Bill, this afternoon when you see that family, see the family? What are you talking about? See the family? Yeah, didn't I tell you? Did that to me all the time. I arranged for you to do therapy with a family. I said, you do know I don't speak Chinese, right? I don't know Mandarin, even a little bit. He said, no problem, I got a translator for you. Well, it turns out the reason he did that was because this group of 110 psychiatrists had seen somebody do quote-unquote family therapy. And it wasn't very good. In fact, two of the people stormed out of the room, and it was just, the consensus in the room was we shouldn't ought to do family therapy. This isn't a fun thing to do. So I went and did family therapy, and you know what? All these rules applied. And in one session, right, I had a commitment from everybody in the room and a change plan from everybody in the room in less than an hour and a half. Okay? And how did I do that? Because I didn't tell them what they ought to be doing. I asked them what they'd be willing to do. You've got to start someplace, right? I find that too many family therapists are pedantic. They play Dr. Phil instead of a therapist. They lecture folks. They tell them how they ought to act. They try to tell them what normal is. By the way, a simple rule. We'll get to one of the techniques for this, but one of the rules about normal is that when a family comes in and sits down in front of you, you can be assured that they don't fit even their definition of normal. And what you need to know is, what do you call normal? You're going to spend all this time with me, and presumably some insurance company's money, if they're lucky, and to become normal. Okay, since I'm along for the ride, what is that? What does that look like? And they'll describe something. And this is the neat thing that never fails. If normal, before this family went south for the winter, was over here somewhere, and where they are right now is over here somewhere, then when you ask them what normal looks like, they'll tell you it's here. It's so hard for them to see those 8 or 10 or 12 steps they have to take to get back to that place. They can't even see over that horizon. That's not even, don't even ask them if it's possible. It's not in their universe. But here, that would be a great place to be. The other thing that tells you that this is a toxic family is that when you say, what would be a good goal for your family? What would be a good goal for you? The answer you would hope to hear at some point is, well, I'd love to become an astronaut. I'd like to be able to travel the world. I haven't been everywhere, but it's on my list. You know, there's a real positive, projecting myself out into the world kind of thing. But with toxic families, they answer the question differently. They answer the question using high school math. Remember high school math when they taught you that 2 negatives make a positive? That's how they answer it. They'll say things like, we won't argue anymore. The kids won't be afraid anymore. We won't have to cancel trips. We'll stop getting those notices from the bank. I won't get those 3 o'clock in the morning phone calls anymore. So normal is the absence of a lot of grief. Boy, I hope not. But for them, they live in a world of serial crisis. And they're just waiting for the next bad thing to happen. And they're working real hard to stop it. So when you say what's normal, it doesn't surprise you that they say normal is when something bad doesn't happen in a couple minutes. Right. Part of the job is to get them to reframe it. This is the thing I love. This is high school physics. That was Sister Bernardo. Nature abhors a vacuum. One of the things our families, and actually our clients in general, don't understand is that you can stop doing all kinds of things, but nature abhors a vacuum. So what are you going to put in that vacuum? What are you going to put in its place? Don't say stop doing that. Don't be Bob Newhart. Don't say stop doing that. What will you do instead? Well then, if I stop doing that bad thing, everything will be okay. I love that one. That's the magic. If Freddie Feelgood in my family stops drinking, then we'll all be happy. We'll be the Brady Bunch, and we'll have our own series, and we'll make money, and we'll get a touring bus, and we'll play music and stuff. No, they have no clue. All they know is the absence of pain. That's the good thing. All right. There you are. Okay. Just want to make sure I'm not running over. Strategic error number one that many people who call themselves family therapists is that they don't do family therapy. They come to this room full of people and they follow the rule that says, you're the bad apple in this barrel, and you're all victims of this. So I'm going to fix you. And then I'm going to fix you, and then I'm going to fix you, and then I'm going to... This is serial individual therapy. I mean, if you're going to do that, for God's sakes, at least see them at least alone, each of them. You get better billing that way. You know, your office manager will be happier. But no. This is the rule. The family is the place where people are nurtured. The family is the place where people can grow and be. So the healthier it is, the stronger it is, the better chance they have of doing all those great and powerful things. So the family is my client. That's hard to hang on to because families are very powerful things, right? And they'll try and triangulate you in so that they don't have to change too much, but they are your, that's, and let me tell you how freeing that is. If the family is my client, then I don't have this yardstick sitting there that glows green that says, we're not well unless this one little thing gets better. Oh, and we can't, you've heard this one, right? We can't start until somebody does something. And it's usually the identified client, isn't it? Well, I'll do that, but I'm not going to do it until they show me something. Or you first. I love that one. I'm not going to do it because he won't do it, but if he does it first, then I'll do it. Okay. No. All right. So that's my family. And the other cool thing is, I don't have to wait for you to start doing some work for us to get to work. Now, as a family, we can get to work. Way cool. Okay. A fellow by the name of John Gottman. He's a really cool guy. He's a little Jewish fellow, wears a yarmulke. And he's been doing this family therapy stuff for years and years and years and doing some really phenomenal empirical research. You need to look at his work. But one of the things he says is that the hallmark of good family therapy is a single word. It's respect. And so one of the things you want to do is try to engender respect among members of the family for each other, but that starts with me. I've got to be respectful of that system sitting in front of me. And some of the old way of looking at things was not so respectful at all. In fact, we used to use this kind of victim-villain approach, or what I call the rocks and holes approach. Have you heard that one? There's 3 ways you can look at families and relationships. The one that we talked about was everybody's a victim of you, the bad actor. The other one is the rocks and holes. I love this one where a couple gets together and they're sitting in front of you, and it's the theory is that the rocks in his head fit the holes in hers. Right? That there's this kind of mutual reciprocal pathology. I don't like that. And yet that has been kind of the cornerstone, that and the victim-villain approach have been cornerstones of marriage and family therapy with chemical dependency families. But let me tell you, that isn't the way it works. In almost every family I deal with, they're noble, and they're working hard. And they have fought, and they have tried, and they have cried, and they have exhausted every approach they can think of. They've spoken to neighbors, to friends, to extended family, and then not anymore. They've asked for advice, and they've taken it, and they've tried, and they've failed, and they've tried, and they've failed. And you know what they've been trying? They've been trying absolutely normal, respectful, loving stuff. They've tried to be supportive. They've tried to take care of each other. And it didn't work. And they tried again. And it didn't work. And again. And it didn't work. And after a while, instead of blaming the illness, they blame themselves. I must be doing it wrong. I've got to try harder, be better. Or, when I'm totally exhausted, blame somebody. But all the while, they've been doing the natural, human, supportive, loving thing. Scenario. Walk you through this. 3 o'clock in the morning. Phone rings. You wake up. Hello, this is Sergeant Smith of the State Highway Patrol. Do you know Adrian Schallebarker? Yes, that's my son. Well, he's in the pokey. Seems he was drinking and driving, and we stopped him, and he's really got a snoot full, and you're going to come down and get him. What would you do? That's my boy. He's in jail with the uglies and the ne'er-do-wells, and I got to save him. I got to do something. So you jump up and you look for your wallet and you throw your clothes on, you run down there. And why? Because it's a crisis and somebody you love is in trouble and you're going to help them. Right? You mobilize because that's what you do, right? Don't get ahead of me here. Yeah, maybe you do that once. You do that once. That's a crisis. And we dig people out of crises, don't we? Because we support each other. We love each other. And it's the loving thing to do. Man, I love that. That's you talk about respectable. But then it happens again. And again. And again. One of the definitions of chemical dependency is serial crisis. Isn't that a great definition? Again and again. And what happens is that the usual and customary methods I might use to protect you from harm now become co-opted and become part of the process. And now at some point, around about the 4th or 5th time that I bail you out of jail, am I not being, what is the word, codependent? Am I not engendering, at some unconscious level at least, the notion that maybe, just maybe, I can get away with this because there are no consequences. Somebody will bail me out. Enabler, as it were. Yes. To coin a phrase, let's copyright that. Yeah. Yeah, we'll write a book. Yeah. We'll get rich. But it's a natural and caring processes and our inclinations. Otherwise, healthy and growthful processes are turned to the service of survival of the addiction and the system. There comes a point where at an unconscious level, the system figures it out. This keeps happening. How can we survive? And so the system makes these little adaptations, trying not to change too much, trying to keep the craziness to a dull roar. Right? Because that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to keep things sane and safe. And so we'll try and protect ourselves against these radical changes in our system. And that's what they do. And then they get to your office and they've exhausted themselves. They've tried everything and nothing has worked. I love that one. We tried, they use this language all the time. We tried, what have you tried? Everything. We've tried everything and nothing works. You could stitch that on a sampler, put it on the wall, save time. So here's what you do. This is a little trip. We're going to get to interventions later, but I'm going to throw one in here right now. I had a partner years ago. God, I loved this woman. She was so good. I used to love to watch her work with families, and I would sit there, and it would just thrill me. I mean, she was that effortless and smooth and good and powerful, just wonderful. And I was sitting watching her through a one-way mirror one time, and she's sitting there. Her name was Renee. Boy, I learned so much from her. She was sitting there with this family, and they said that thing. We've tried everything. And she said, now here's the trick. So what have you tried? They didn't see the trap. And it was a beautiful, happy trap. So what have you tried? And they say, well, we tried such and such. And her response was, and that didn't work. And they say, yeah. So what else have you tried? Wow, and that didn't work, huh? No. What else have you tried? And on and on. I'm sitting in the back there thinking, God, I'm depressed. I'm just watching this. And she went on for maybe a half hour as they described all of the things that they tried to do to help this person that they love and to reduce their own pain. And none of them worked. And I thought, my God, she is just really highlighting their own sense of themselves as being failures. Because think about it, it's a pretty unnatural act to go to a therapist, isn't it? So this whole family, instead of keeping it in the family, show up at a stranger's door and tell them their secrets. That's pretty radical. About a half hour into this session, they started getting real kind of frosty towards her, as you can imagine. And she said, you know what strikes me? And she had made notes. She was so cool. She said, you tried this and it didn't work. You tried this and it didn't work. You tried this and it didn't work. You tried. And she enumerated every single one of them. And she said, what a caring, loving, patient, stubborn family you are. And when nothing else worked, you tried one more thing. You're in this office. Way to go. Isn't that great? That's a larger technique called positive reframing. They came in feeling hopeless and helpless. And what she did was took all of that history of their perceived failures and turned it into something really noble, which is what it was. And it's better to see those things that they tried to do that didn't work as being cool things that they tried in the best interest of themselves and their family than to blame them, because they already do that themselves, for being inadequate and having a toxic family. Isn't that a great technique? Do you love that or what? Who took notes? I say these things off the top of my head. Please don't ask me. Noble, respectful, loving, stubborn. I like stubborn. Okay, patient. Okay, patient's better, I guess. No, stubborn's good. It's like healthy selfish. Selfish is good too. There is such a thing as healthy selfish, isn't there? Right. When you want a happy life, a happy marriage, be healthy selfish. Love the person that you're with in ways that make you feel good, not in ways that make them feel good. Because it happens. Magic. All right, I got it. I just got the high sign. We're supposed to take a break. You want to take a break? Or you want to keep going? There's food and stuff. Yeah. Okay, 10 minutes? Is that good? 10 minutes. Let's do 10 minutes. I'll see you in 10 minutes. Okay, family. Can I have the family? Come on. I'm sorry. Come on. Come on, family. Let's get back after the break. This is the perfect time to do it. Where's Mom? There she is again, down at the Sodality, probably playing bingo or something.
She ran out on us.
Maybe she's at the bar. Yeah. Yeah.
With some guy she met fishing. Probably.
Oh, yeah.
We can go crazy with this, can't we?
Yeah.
Well,
With a PH, fishing with a PH. Yeah, online fishing. Is PH.
is that cute, the way you tied that in together there? That's really neat. Okay, well, there she is, finally.
There you go, see? I told you. We know the real substitute.
Somebody remind me what the rules were again, please. So far, this is a normal, and I know in today's world, having a normal family probably means somebody is shooting up or smoking up or toking up or something. But right now, what I want to do is, the family's back together. It's the same family, so you don't have to, you can elaborate on your roles if you wish, but I want you to start your day the way you did the last time, okay? Oh, Martha? No. Okay, so go. Go. No, another day of no talking. No talking. Here. Stop. What's going on?
Okay, I'm fishing once again, and I have my beautiful wife here with me, and I'm just ready to look forward.
Okay. Just tell me what's going on. Don't explain. What's going on? What's going on?
Well, I'd like to go fishing if I could get the scarf off.
What's going on?
I'm teaching class.
What's going on?
On a computer.
Okay. Noon. Go. Dragger. Speaking of stubborn women. 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Three o'clock in the afternoon. Stop. What's going on? Having it? Sleeping at the computer. What's going on?
I'm directing a play with these guys.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
I'm directing a play with these guys.
You're directing a play with those guys. Oh, you're the English teacher. Sorry, I forgot.
Well, I also,
I got it. Yeah. Fine literature. What's going on, Dad?
Just enjoying all the peace and quiet.
Enjoy beer, peace, and quiet. Okay. What's going on? I'm sorry you had to hear that.
Oh, that's okay, that's why I'm an addict.
What's going on is you're an addict.
Well,
That's enough. That says it all, doesn't it? Well, 5 o'clock. End of the day. Five o'clock, it's the end of the day. What's going on?
directing papers.
All right, stop. What's going on?
Coming home for dinner.
What's going on?
I thought you were cooking.
There.
I'm going to do that. It's a Stouffer's lasagna.
What's going on?
oh, I'm getting ready to have a 5 o'clock martini.
5 o'clock. Gave you the time, didn't I? Yeah. All right. 8 o'clock.
Well, not home yet. I hope she's still sober.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, you start. What's going on?
Dad and I are watching baseball again. Are we watching baseball?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
What's going on? Let me guess.
Smoking my cigarettes at the computer.
After having a nice nap, I do. What's going on?
I'm trying to get this monkey off my back.
Okay, we can stop. Martha, tell everybody who you are and what your role is.
Or addiction. He asked me to do this. I'm trying to figure which one I was going to choose.
That's okay, I'm addicted to everything.
And then you said I'm an addict, so here we go.
Take your pick. Okay, so Martha plays the addict. Now, if you do this with families, what you'll see is that you actually go through a series of days, and you can role play what would normal look like for this family, and what does our family look like right now. And what ends up happening is that they see things in themselves that they didn't see through the words. But this articulates it better than anything, doesn't it? It's 5 o'clock, she's not home. In fact, you're having dinner somewhere else. Okay. Is there anything you'd like to say about this family that you've been in? Any observations?
This is the reason why I have to live in this family, to help take care of you. Because you don't have a real mother.
And you don't have a real job.
My job is taking care of this family.
Don't let me stop you.
Oh, I have a question. Can I ask a question?
Ask a question, make a comment, an observation, tell people what's going on. What did you see?
30.
Okay.
I'm gonna be the FBI now. I'm investigating you for phishing and computer scam.
Okay, wait. Now you can start, you get out of your roles. You're allowed to leave your roles now. For God's sakes, don't take them home. What I would like for you to do is, for the purposes of those folks, tell us what your observation is of this exercise. Start anywhere you like.
The family members or
No,
audience?
you. Just tell folks what you saw. What your observation is, what your impression is of this exercise.
Blaming. Not taking personal responsibility.
I'll tell you something.
Get out of the role. Let go of it, man. Let go of it.
Nice in my life right now.
As a therapist, as a professional, what do you see?
Um,
Well, he's thinking.
yeah. That's always stayed. Honestly, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think it would be a good idea to brief people at the beginning. There's hands-on involved. Because my first reaction was, you are not moving me. And, you know, if you got the wrong person, they might turn around and slug
You wouldn't do this with a family, by the way. This is done for the purposes of this demonstration.
You know, because like CID role play, there's no hands-on. And so the hands-on, you know, made me uncomfortable because I don't like people telling me what to do, and I don't like people dragging me away. So, you know, I think it's,
Good observation. Thank you.
that's my point.
So she was a good drug, wasn't she?
She was really trying to drag me. Finally, she said, please come with me. I knew I was supposed to, but I just wasn't.
So she was both, like a drug, she was both thuggish and seductive. Yeah. Any other observations? How about you guys? What'd you see? Oh, thank you. Were you here? Come on. Take a chance.
I think it was a matter of recognize how different a day-to-day in a family would be. They didn't operate exactly the same way each time, even though they're the same family with the same issues. They still took a little bit different way of doing it. So when we're working with the family, you have to spend enough time to see the difference.
It's a movie, not a snapshot. Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, can I ask a question? He asked me to pick somebody and be their addiction. How many of you all would have picked him?
Can't hear, we can't hear you.
Bill asked me to pick somebody and be their addiction. I'm asking you, how many of you would have picked him? How many of you would have picked him? How about her?
Oh, yeah.
How about her?
Man,
Interesting.
that's a small observation. If you had picked her, you would have been right.
Right. Is there right or wrong to this? Is there?
Was there a moment when she wasn't on that damn computer?
Other than when she was asleep.
Is there such a thing as internet addiction?
Yeah.
If there is, she's got it. Look at what we discovered about this family. By the way, what did you say your drug was? Heroin?
I sit there, it's all of them.
Well,
Having martinis at 5 o'clock.
I forgot about the martini,
There you
yeah.
go.
Yeah.
You gotta get the roller coaster going.
Okay, give them a hand. They were good, weren't they? Thank you. I think that worked out. I think you're headed for a divorce. I know.
No, I don't think so.
No? Not as long. Not as long as you go fishing.
No. We will fish until we die. Sir?
Okay.
Question. Okay, yeah. Okay, I'm watching this and, you know, of course, they're role playing, but they all seem so nice. I know that she was probably the biggest addict, you know, their internet, and she gave a little hint smoking and, you know, just into that. But I was always taught that they seem to get along, and if it's not interfering with somebody, of course they came for treatment, they seem to be in their rigid roles. But, all right, I guess I want to know what you're going to do about them. They didn't seem so bad to me.
We should have played it out then.
Oh, there's time.
I mean, there was respect. There was no violence. The English teacher was so sweet. He watched TV with his dad. I mean, they attempted fishing. She was home to anybody with their addiction, except for herself.
Ooh, what you said.
Well, yeah.
I'm sorry, I saw you talk, but I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
No, no.
Withdraw from the family.
Withdrawn from the family. 5 o'clock martini.
Well, yeah, but, I wanna see what you wanna do, but, I mean, they seem to be getting along in their rigid roles to me.
Yes, they were. And families who come in and sit down in front of me will tell me that that's the case in their family too, except for this one problem.
Well, there was clearly underlying tension between the sisters because at the end, she was like blaming, finding the identified problem that she had to step in. That's why she has to live here to take care of the son because he doesn't have a mother. And we almost went into it. I mean, seriously.
But she was nice.
Take it outside.
I didn't think so.
There's no question that they're nice. Yes, the fact is, if a family gets to you, they're at the end of their rope and they're very toxic. And they're usually more dramatic than that. One of the reasons that you do family choreography and not let them talk is that it gets them past that place where there would be screaming and yelling and invective and blaming. And what do you see? What is happening now? What's going on now? Who, what, when, where, now? Not why.
What's that old saying? Change happens when not changing becomes too uncomfortable.
Change happens when not changing becomes too uncomfortable. Absolutely. Or when people are allowed to suffer the natural and automatic consequences of their behavior.
But how do you explain to them about the part like we're not going to talk? Because I wasn't sure, like when I came back in, about like logistically how you're supposed to do this.
Right.
You're not supposed to talk. I mean, how do you lead into the exercise?
Just do it.
Tell them you won't be talking.
Don't talk, no talking. The other thing I do about in terms of talking with a family is that when they come in and sit down in front of me, this is a really good rule of thumb, especially with very toxic families, is the rule of thumb is, this is my office. And we play by my rules. I got a waiting list and, so I can afford to set my own rules. And so here's the rule, nobody talks except to me. They don't talk to each other. You can do that at home. And I'm sure you do, or maybe not. But you only talk to me. And I'll ask you questions and you'll respond to me. Or if you have something you'd like to say, you say it to me. And it's no fair cheating by using me as a conduit. By saying something like, well, I really think she's stupid. You do that for the first several sessions. And the reason you do that is because that cuts down on them using you as a referee. Yeah. Don't you think he's dumb? Listen, tell me I'm right and he's wrong. No, we're not going to have that. Yes, ma'am.
During this technique, are they playing themselves or are we telling them to play the role of someone else in the family?
You could do that too. That's a nice variation. Why don't you be your son? Yeah, let's try it that way then. There's lots of variations on the theme, but one of the things that you're trying to do early on in these sessions with these folks, by the way, you wouldn't do this with a family until you've got them calmed down and trusting you enough that they'll do what you ask them to do. But one of the things you're trying to do is to get information uncluttered by all the noise. And the information you get, because I'm a very visual and I like spatial relationships, so when I can see the movement and spatial relationships, it's a piece that I get that I can't see when I'm hearing them talking to me or when they're sitting in their little chairs. We've actually done multiple family therapy where we've had people come up and just make a family. So have a volunteer from each family come up and make another family. And they'll see, we call this universalization. Even though they've made a totally new and unique family, it's exactly like their family. It's so cool. It's like family sculpture, and I'm sure some of you have done that before. But now it's got motion. Now it's got action. What's the next slide? Yes. adaptation and serial crisis. What happens in healthy, functioning, normal families is that families project themselves into the world, and they introject stuff from the world that helps them to grow individually and as a family. They have good, healthy borders and boundaries. They have reasonable relationships that are articulated. It's a good deal. And what they make, the changes that they make, are slow and incremental and are in response to felt need. That's very different from adaptations. An adaptation is a required change to a crisis. I'm going to make a quick adaptation. And why do I make that? So I don't have to change too much. Change, no matter how much it's desired, is highly anxiety-provoking. And people will resist it with all their might. Now, when I hear beginning therapists say this to me all the time. They're so resistant, man. They don't want to change, no. Now, wait a minute. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to do. What they're supposed to do is resist dramatic change. They're supposed to maintain the status quo. They got enough upset in their life. What, are you going to come in here, Mr. Big Deal Therapist, and make us make all these changes? Of course they're being resistant. That's their job. And there are times when you can actually trigger that resistance and get some change out of that. But that's being tricky. And I don't recommend it all the time. But what this is serial crises. A single adaptation, no big whoop. It stops the family from having to make great upset. But if it goes on and on and on and on, then it's normalizing the abnormal. Then adaptations stop being adaptations in the face of a crisis and become a way of life. Normalized weirdness. Yeah. I'm gonna use that line again. Thank you for the laugh. It works. Okay, so I hate it when I go to a workshop and people tell me this is the terrible thing that happens, and then walk away. It's nice if people will leave me with one thing that I can walk away with, just one. You know, after all these years, I go to a workshop and I think, I hope they'll cover such and such, or it would really be swell if I could leave here being confirmed in something that I do, validated, or I got a new technique. I was given a tremendous compliment yesterday by somebody that's really nice, and what she told me was that she had gone to one of my classes and she used a bunch of my material in her workplace. You can't imagine how good that makes me feel. That's what I hope to get when I go to a workshop, and she gave me a great compliment by saying that. Now, I'm not fishing here with an F. I'm not fishing for compliments here, but I'm just telling you that this is why we're going to talk about some specific kind of techniques to do with these families. Reframe the issues. Remember the little thing that my buddy Renee did? That was a classic master reframe. The cool thing here is that families have a way of looking at normal process and interpreting it through some kind of weird lens, especially if they're really toxic. And if they're really toxic, that lens is very distorted. Let me give you the classic example. Some of you have been to the workshop before, have heard this example, but I'll use it. In my family, when it comes to financial issues, my wife is thorough. I would never use a word like OCD with my wife, but my wife is careful when it comes to our finances. Right? She can tell you to the penny how much is in our checking account. right this minute. I, on the other hand, have what she might call a more casual approach to these things. Years ago, after we got married, and we were married for about 10 years, she said, "That's it. Here's your checking account, Bill. We're going to start you out with $200, and you handle that. Don't touch the bills. Don't touch it." And, oh, okay, cool. Now, my wife will spend 2 hours a month, 3 hours a month reconciling the checkbook. I know that I'm visiting other people here. I get that. I, on the other hand, in 50 years of marriage, have never reconciled my checkbook. Ever. I can tell you within a couple of $100 how much is in my checking account. Maybe. But the way I handle it is that every couple of years, 3 years or so, I change banks. Yeah, go to another bank and get a toaster and open up a checking account and transfer some of the money from here into this one and leave some money in here until all the checks clear. And when no more checks come through, then I'll close that one. Now, it works. I've never bounced a check, ever, in 50 years. And I won't tell on my wife, because she'll probably watch this tape, so that's happened. That's all I can say. Now, there's two ways we can look at that. There's two ways we can look at that. We can sit and blame each other for being sloppy and irresponsible and OCD. And toxic families are likely to do that. Those differences between two people that otherwise don't amount to a hill of beans in most cases suddenly become very toxic issues. Or it can be handled in a way that, oh, thank you, God, Linda and I handle it. And we see it as being very complementary. And we see it, and we honor each other. And because I am a little more casual and a little more comfortable with spending money and having some fun with it, she can be too. And because she is so careful with our money, I've never had a moment of anxiety or fear. Talk about complementarity. Now, we can sit there and honor each other with that. Or we can sit there, if we're really toxic, and blame each other with that. And what you'll find is, with really toxic families, that around a whole host of issues, they speak to each other in terms of pathology and how sick the other person is around all kinds of things, whether it be how the children are handled, about the vocation, about avocation, about money, about all those 13 things that we typically talk about in terms of the dynamics of a relationship. So you reframe the issues. And don't be afraid to do that out loud. I see you saying this and you saying this, and that you're seeing those as bad things, but there's a good side to that too. Of there's this and this. How about that? Can you see that? Maybe a little. There's a couple of games we play, the complementarity games, that are kind of fun. There's the over-under functioning game. That's a good one. I like that one. You know, around this issue, who's the over-functioner, who's the under-functioner? Yeah. Oh, he's definitely the over-functioner. Yeah. Now, I'm the over-functioner when it comes to major purchases. Yes, if we buy a car, I can tell you the engineering specs of that car. I can tell you the full displacement of that automobile. I can tell you 5 years worth of reviews of that automobile. I can show you films of test drives that people have taken of those. Now, if you speak to my wife, well, the last car we bought. So, honey, what kind of car you want? Blue. Get a little more, honey? A little more? Heated seats. Anything else? No, that's it. That's blue and heated seats. So we bought her a blue car with heated seats, but it's got the right displacement, it gets great gas mileage, it's got good safety, it's an IIHS safety pick. And how does that work? Great. There's complementarity. We could frame that as she doesn't care, and she leaves it to me, and I've got to do everything. Or she could call me being obsessive compulsive about the. There's a commercial where the guy's standing there and he's got the wall covered with pictures and stuff. And then the wife walks in and says, "What color? Gray. How many miles? Done, here." And she walks out. Okay, do it your way then. That's us. And every relationship is like that to some degree. All right. First thing you do is you get the family to agree on a problem. Now, get yourself out of this equation. They're sitting there and you say, sure, God made little green apples, and with all my experience, wisdom, and training, I know what the problem is here. Well, no, don't go there. Because they won't work on your problem. They'll work on their problem. And they got to have a place to start. And they'll tell you where that place is by helping to define what the family's problem is. Right? Bless you. By the way, you know why they say bless you? Because there was a belief that when you sneezed, your heart stopped. And so I say, God bless you, hoping your heart would start back up again. And for a guy with open heart surgery, I say that and I mean it. Ooh. So what is the family's problem? And it doesn't matter that it doesn't match up with what it says in your DSM, whichever version you're using. And none of you have to admit that you stopped looking at that book if you don't want to. Anyway, so what is the problem? And it can be anything. But what it has to be is not a who. With this family that was up here, when I get them after they're real toxic for a long time, what they'll tell me is that she's the problem. They won't even go so far as to say that her addiction is the problem. And if she's the problem, then the solution is that she's got to be something else. Or she's got to not be. But she's the problem, not the who. What is the problem in this family? Well, if I've got you sitting there and you're the addict in a family, you're not gonna say, "Oh, I'm the problem in this family. And if I just go away, this family would be a lot better." God, I hope you wouldn't say that. Because now we're going to do a 24-hour observe. No. But can we all say that we've been angry with each other and we've been dysfunctional and we're not happy? We're not the family that we want to be. We're not productive. We don't pull together anymore. We're separated, or we're separated from the rest of the world. We're isolated. And that's not good for us. Get them to frame the problem as a single problem, who and what. Now, I have some folks come in, and they've done a little bit of side work, and they've done a little Al-Anon and Alateen and some other kinds of things. And they're willing to say, well, our problem is that we're all affected. This system here, this family, is affected by drugs and alcohol and addiction. Now, that's pretty sophisticated, and you probably won't get that right away. But you can coach them, and you can work with them until you come and take the time it takes to get them to come to a statement that they can all agree on. So that's the problem that this family can work on, because we all agree that that's the problem, right? Yeah, I guess so, yeah, okay. But what about, and they'll want to jump right in and take care of her. And they'll want to jump right in and relieve their own individual. No, let's start with the family. If this is the issue for this family, Okay. And then the second thing to do is to get people in the family to take individual ownership of the problem at some level. May I tell you a story? David, the Chinese family that I had, oh God, I will never forget this. I had this Chinese family, and Mom was sitting there, and she was crying. And by the way, they tell me, talking about cultural sensitivity, that the Chinese folks are very reserved and they don't touch, right? Well, okay, let's ask questions before we assume that's true. The identified patient is this young fella, nice-looking fella. The father is angry. Oh my God, he's angry. And it's clear that he has tried everything that a butch dad can do. He's done everything, and he told me that. And this kid won't do anything. And there's an adolescent girl sitting here. And I guess this is redundant, but she's passive-aggressive. I'm sorry. It tells you her age, doesn't it? But she's really angry, and she's passive-aggressive, right? So how is what's going on in this family a problem for you? I asked her. And she said, it's not a problem. And she dared me to take one more step towards her. I said, way cool, okay. Not a problem. And I stopped. Hey, don't ever challenge passive-aggressive. They're better at it than you are, and they will bloody your nose. Say, okay, how is this a problem for you? And get them to own it. And what they'll try to do at first is say, well, she always, no. How is this, and that's a problem for you, how? Okay, okay, but for you, how is that a problem? And if you can say something to me that if it were different, you'd feel better. So how is that a problem for you? So I'm getting them to own an individual piece of this, some way it expresses in them, right? And I'm giving them permission at the same time to focus less on that person and to have healthy selfish, that it's really okay to care for myself. Right? That's the reframe. Right? With that Chinese family, that's what I got them all to do. Right? This is the first session. These reserved people who don't share all took care of that for me. They told me what the problem was. They're a very tight family. They were from Mongolia, and they had this culture of real tight. Right? Thank God I didn't treat them like Chinese. Right? And they're real tight, and each of them said they would do something. That the problem is such and such and such and such. Right? Then we get to stage 3. And this is all within the first hour, folks. Take what you can get. Remember, you're a salesman. And in fact, you do a better job as a salesman than the best salesman in the world because you're selling a basket full of hope. Yeah. So get them to buy something, and then a personal commitment to do something about their individual ownership. So if I say to the family, if this is the family, I'll say to everybody, if this family needs to feel better and it takes 100% of commitment and energy, how much could you contribute? And they'll give me a number. How about you? How much can you contribute to making this work? And they'll give me a number. It's never 100%. How much will you contribute? And I add them all up. And it almost always is over 100%. And when it's not over 100%, I'll say, wow, that's a good number. That's a good place to start. It's a lot of energy, a lot of commitment. Let's pull that together and we'll make that happen. So we get individual commitment to my issue, and then I get individual commitment to the family's issue. Right? Isn't that a great first step? You know, if you didn't do anything else, you just increased that family's chances of being functional and happy. Wow. And you know what I did with the little passive-aggressive gal? I said, can I ask you to do me a favor? What I've noticed is that you are very intense in your observation of your family. And it's real clear to me that you care a lot. I wonder if I could ask you, because I can't be at home with your family, if you would be my at-home observer and kind of be an anchor and make sure that folks don't move too fast as we do this work. It was right in her wheelhouse. It's what she did best. Use her skill. She didn't have to do anything, and in not doing anything, she did something. Got a contract. And what we did was we wrote that contract down. And I still have that contract. I think that's what it says. It's in Mandarin. But I brought it home with me. Who knows what they're saying about me? Dear Dr. Mock. All right, some interventions. I understand we're moving up on time here. Ask them to define normal. Give them a place to move toward, because they come into you wanting to move away from something. It is better that they move towards a happier, healthier, more productive space than to be moving away from their pain. They've been trying that for the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Move towards something else. Act as if. It is so, I got people coming into my office and they're in 12-step programs, and it never occurs to them that single little rule that's in a cheap Woolworths frame in their meeting rooms, act as if, fake it till you make it, might work here. If this family were happy and functioning, what would you be doing and how would you be doing it? And they'll tell you, knowing that you're going to give them that as homework. Go and do that. I can't do that. If I could do that, I'd be doing it. No, that's not true. You've been doing other things, trying to help somebody, trying to cure the family. I want you to go back to doing this. Trust me with this. Do the thing that works for you. Act as if. And so they'll go back to school, or they'll go back to their sodality meetings, or they'll go to the club that they used to go to, or they'll go to, what is it, shag dancing? Shag dancing. By the way, I never heard of shag dancing until I came to Virginia and the Carolinas. It means something else up north, but Sirius XM has a shag dancing station. Yeah. Big whoop. So I can see you going back to your agencies now. What did you learn at that training? Well, Sirius XM has there is a simple and complicated dichotomy. One of the things that the family has done when they came to you was try to make things easier. And in an attempt to make it easier, they've ended up complicating it. You've got all these complicated machinations to solve problems and to reduce pain. And you'll say, this is what you should do. And they'll say, it can't be that simple. It is. It's almost always that simple. It's just really hard. And to avoid that, and to avoid the pain of having to change by making simple changes, they'll get complicated. Start with whoever is ready to work. We have for years gone through this business of saying, well, we can't start until the person who carries the prime symptoms for the system is ready to do something. No, don't do that. No, don't do that. Start wherever. Somebody shows up at your office and says, I'm here as a representative of the family. You don't say it quite that way, but that's what it is. And we don't know what to do about this person who lives in our lives, and we want to know what to do. Okay, I'll start working with you. Oh, but I'm not the one with the problem. Excuse me. He's not here. You're here. You're in enough pain. You want to change enough that you're willing to sit here with a stranger. Why don't we start here? Yeah, but it's not my problem. I'm sorry. Is there any other reason why you'd be sitting in my office? Let's get started. Why don't you invite all the rest of your family to come to the next session. And in the meantime, here's some homework. I love homework. Oh, I give them craft paper and crayons and stuff. Oh, yeah, I love homework. Invite all the members. And there is a school of thought that says, no, just invite the family, but leave the drunk home. And in fact, if the person who carries the prime pathology for the family chooses to stay home, you know what will happen. They'll finish their session, they'll come home, and he'll ask what they talked about. So I coach them and say, tell them everything. Word for word if you want. We'll record it if you like. No more secrets. We're all going to get well together. The other way I frame it for the rest of the family members is, you know what? Right now you're feeling real angry and real upset, real toxic, enough so that you're willing to come and talk to a therapist, for God's sakes. Well, what would happen if that person you love suddenly got well? And now they come home to this. Why don't we give them such a healthy, happy place to live in that their toxicity stands in high contrast and gives them a place to come home to? Well, I suppose we could do that. Yeah. Let's do what you can do. Can you cure them? Oh, no. Well, then stop trying. Let's do this instead, which gives us a chance to make it better. Coach on how to respond to questions of where the family members are going and why. And the coaching is as follows. Her fear would be that I'm going there to fix her. Her fear would be that I'm going there to talk about her, to machinate. When what she needs to hear is what's actually happened, and that is, I'm going to therapy so that I can stop feeling crazy. I'm going there so I can stop being angry all the time. I'm going there so that I can be a better version of me. Now, to the degree that that's true, you got a shot. And I think that's it. Okay, it's 10 minutes to go. Questions? I didn't think it would fill the 2 hours, but it did. Questions? Now, don't everybody dash out of here, for God's sake. No? No questions? Comments? Criticisms? Yes, ma'am.
Do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and where you practice?
No, I don't mind at all. Oh, yeah, sure, yeah. You got to ask the right question. I will do it, and I don't mind. I started and ran the Center for Interpersonal Development in Lakewood, Ohio, 48 years ago, thereabouts. And several years ago, 3 years ago, I sold it. And the person I sold it to closed it last year. I know. I'm still grieving that one. Predominantly, my practice was in a place and doing a thing that I promised myself I would never do when I went to school. I promised myself I'd never work with adolescents or drunks. I don't work with adolescents. But I really believe that sometimes my higher power gives me a message. And when I was in college, I got assigned to go to an agency. And they drew an agency's name out of the hat, and it happened to be an alcoholism agency. And so I said, okay, that doesn't mean a thing. And I went and did my field placement there, and don't you know they offered me a job. So I said, okay, God, okay. Before the lightning comes, this must mean something. So I started in that, and I've been doing chemical dependency work ever since. Predominantly in systems. So I've tried to be expert in group therapy, and I've tried to be expert, or at least good, in marriage and family therapy. And those are my preferred venues. And the fact is, people tell me I can't make a living at that because insurance won't pay for it. Well, obviously I'm not starving. It's not that funny. Jeez. I'm married. In fact, this year, it's our 50th wedding anniversary. Don't applaud me. That's all her. And we're going to Jamaica. Yeah, that's what I think. That's where we went on our honeymoon. Oh, yeah, I knew it was coming. Yeah, in December. Yeah. And I got a daughter. Thank you. And I have a granddaughter who is the most beautiful grandchild in the world. No arguments here. There's no shame in having the second most beautiful granddaughter in the world. What else do you need to know about me? I'm a woodworker.
Are you from now living in Virginia?
No. I come all the way down here from the Western Reserve, from west of Cleveland, Ohio. Yeah. So they keep inviting me, so I'm going to keep coming. Thank you. I think we can leave now. Thank you.